I always believed the cruelest pain came from strangers. But I was wrong. Pain from strangers hurts the skin. Pain from your own children? That buries itself deep in your bones. And that day, the day I returned from my 2-week trip, I felt a kind of pain I didn't know a mother could feel. I still remember the moment my taxi turned the corner toward the house my son grew up in. My heart fluttered like a girl coming home from her first vacation. I had gifts in my lap, small things I'd bought for my son Mark, my daughter-in-law Jenna, and my little granddaughter Lily. But as the taxi slowed in front of the house, my smile faded. My belongings, my suitcase, my old trunk, my box of photo albums, were all stacked outside on the porch. Neat, organized, like a delivery or a removal. At first I thought maybe they were cleaning the house. Maybe they had a plumber or painter come while I was away. But then I saw it. A small white envelope taped to my suitcase. My name written in my son's handwriting. My throat tightened. I stepped out of the taxi so fast that the driver shouted, "Ma'am, your bag, careful." But I didn't care. I walked straight toward the note, hands trembling. Peeled it off. Just one sentence. "Sorry, Mom. No space for you. Mark." My knees gave out. I dropped onto the porch steps, that letter shaking in my hand. My son. My only child. The boy I raised alone after his father died. The boy I worked double shifts for. The boy whose feet I massaged when he had fevers. Whose tears I wiped when other boys bullied him. Whose dreams I always placed before my own. Sorry, Mom. No space for you. It felt like a blade sliding slowly into my chest. Just then, I noticed something else. A second piece of paper peeking out of the box of my photo albums. Unlike the note, this one wasn't taped. It looked like it had been shoved in quickly. Almost hidden. I reached in and pulled it out. The handwriting wasn't Mark's. It wasn't neat. It wasn't even a note. It was a list. A list titled, "Mom's Things Donate/Trash." And under it, in Jenna's handwriting, "Old sweaters donate. Kitchen stuff trash. Photo albums trash. Jewelry keep. Maybe sell. Sewing machine donate." My breath stopped. Trash? Trash? My entire life? My memories? The photos of Mark's first birthday, his first steps, his school days, my late husband holding him? Trash? I pressed the paper to my chest. Just then the taxi driver approached me slowly. "Ma'am, are you okay? Should I call someone?" I forced a smile I didn't feel. "No. I'm fine." But inside I was collapsing. I looked at the house. The curtains were closed. The lights were off. It looked dead but not empty. They were in there. I knew it. I felt it. My son. My daughter-in-law. My granddaughter. Inside that house. Without me. Not even waiting for me to come home. Not even giving me a chance to talk. They wanted me out. Permanently. I walked to the door and knocked. Gently at first. Then louder. "Mark? Sweetheart? It's me. I'm back early. Please open the door." Silence. I knocked again, harder. "Mark, please. Just talk to me. Tell me what happened." Still nothing. I pressed my forehead against the door. And that's when I heard it. A sound. A soft, muffled sound. Like someone trying not to cry. My heart jumped. "Mark? Mark, please open the door." Then I heard footsteps. Slow. Hesitant. They came closer. Stopped at the door. My breath caught. But instead of unlocking it, instead of speaking, someone turned the lock from the inside. They locked it. Against me. That was the moment. The moment everything inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. Quietly. Devastatingly. Because that lock wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. It was final. A slow, deliberate click that said, "You don't belong here anymore." I whispered through the door, "Mark, talk to your mother, please." Then I heard something faint. A whisper. A woman's whisper. "Jenna, don't. She needs to go." My chest tightened with disbelief. Go? Go where? This was the home I helped them buy. A home I spent my savings on. A home where I raised my son. And now I was being thrown out like unwanted furniture. I stepped back onto the porch, staring at my belongings. The driver hesitated. "Ma'am, I don't think they'll open." I swallowed my tears. "I know." I picked up the suitcase, my hands shaking, and whispered to myself, "I survived worse. I'll survive this too." But just as I turned away, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I opened it. The message made my heart stop. "Don't leave. They're lying to you. Wait until 7 p.m. Everything will make sense." My blood ran cold. Who sent that? How did they know I was here? And what did they mean they're lying? I looked back at the house, at the closed curtains, at my belongings on the porch, and suddenly, I didn't know what hurt more. My son kicking me out, or the possibility that the truth was even worse. I sat on the porch step, staring at that house, waiting for 7, and praying that whoever sent that message wasn't too late. I sat there on the porch, clutching that strange text message, my suitcase beside me like a wounded dog. The house felt colder than the evening breeze. Cold in a way only rejection can feel. I stared at my phone screen. "Don't leave. They're lying to you. Wait until 7 p.m. Everything will make sense." I must have read it 10 times. Who knew I was here? Who knew something was wrong? And what secret were they talking about? For a moment I wondered if it was spam or some cruel mistake. But the message was too specific, too perfectly timed, almost like someone had been watching. My hands trembled as I texted back, "Who is this?" Delivered. No reply. I checked the time. 6:02 p.m. 58 minutes to go. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something terrible or something life-changing. I turned toward the house again, hoping, just hoping that Mark would open the door, that he would step out and say, "Mom, this was all a misunderstanding." But I saw nothing. No movement behind the curtains. No silhouettes. No apology. Just silence. And the silence hurt more than words ever could. The taxi driver looked at me with gentle eyes. "Ma'am, do you have somewhere to go? I can take you." I shook my head. "No. I'll wait." He nodded slowly, unsure, then drove away. Suddenly, the street felt too empty, like the whole world had stepped back and left me alone with my heartbreak. Just then I heard a tiny voice. "Grandma." My heart leapt. Lily, my sweet little granddaughter. She stood at the side of the house holding her stuffed rabbit, her big brown eyes confused. She looked like she'd been crying. "Baby," I whispered, opening my arms. She ran toward me, and I caught her, pressing her small body against my chest. She smelled like vanilla shampoo and innocence. "Grandma, Mommy said you're going away." My heart cracked again. I stroked her hair. "Did she now?" Lily nodded. "She said you don't want to live with us anymore." My stomach twisted. No. They were lying to my granddaughter too? I took a shaky breath. Sweetheart, I would never leave you. Never. She looked up at me. But Mommy said. Then a voice cut through the air. Lily. Jenna. Her voice sharp like a blade. Lily froze against me. I felt her tiny fingers grip my shirt like she knew she wasn't supposed to be near me. I kissed her forehead. It's okay, baby. Jenna marched toward us, heels clacking, face tight with irritation. Not guilt, not sadness, just annoyance. Lily, get inside. But Mommy. Now. Lily flinched and ran back toward the house. At the door, she looked back at me with scared eyes before disappearing inside. Then it was just me and Jenna. Jenna crossed her arms. You shouldn't be here. My jaw tightened. This is my home. No, she said, her voice cold. This is our home now. And we need space for ourselves, for privacy, for the baby on the way. My eyes widened. Baby. She smirked. Did Mark not tell you? Oh, how predictable. I stared at her, stunned. A new baby? My new grandchild? And instead of welcoming me, they threw me out? She stepped closer, her voice low enough that only I could hear. Let me make this easy for you. Mark doesn't want you here. I don't want you here. You're old, you're slow, and frankly, you're a burden. The words hit me like slaps. I whispered. After everything I've done for you too. She tilted her head. That was your choice. Not our debt. I felt the blood drain from my face. She walked past me, sneered at my belongings on the porch, and added, It's time for you to live on your own. We've decided what's best. Don't make this harder. Before I could reply, she turned and walked back inside, her heels echoing like final nails in my heart. The door closed, locked again. But before it shut completely, I heard something. A man's voice. Weak, quiet, hoarse. Jenna, don't. Mark. My son. He sounded sick. Very sick. My blood turned to ice. What was happening inside that house? I checked my phone. 6:28 p.m. 32 minutes left. That message kept echoing in my mind. Don't leave. They're lying to you. Lying about what? My son sounded weak. Not normal weak, hospital weak. Like he was in pain or drugged. Or recovering from something. But why? And why hadn't he called me? Why hadn't he told me? Why had Jenna lied to my face? A sudden fear washed over me. What if my son wasn't throwing me out by choice? What if someone was making decisions for him? What if he was trapped? I stood pacing the porch, my heart pounding. Then I saw movement. At the side window, a male silhouette. Tall. Not Mark. Someone else. Someone I didn't recognize. He pulled the curtain back just enough for his eyes to meet mine. Cold eyes. Watching me. And then he let the curtain fall. I stepped back, breath shaking. Who was that? I knew everyone in this house. There shouldn't be a strange man in there. Not with my son. Not with my granddaughter. And why was he watching me like that? This was no misunderstanding. This was something darker. At 6:52 p.m., the sun disappeared. The streetlights flickered on. I wrapped my sweater around my shoulders, feeling the chill. Then, a car turned onto the street. Black. Tinted windows. Slow. It stopped right in front of the house. My heart pounded. A woman stepped out. Not young. Not old. Professional looking. She walked toward the porch. Mrs. Thompson? Yes? I whispered. She looked around cautiously, then said, Don't ask questions yet. But you need to come with me. Now. Why? Who are you? She handed me her card. My eyes widened. Adult Protective Services. But before I could react, she leaned in and whispered, "You were right not to leave. Your son is in danger. And so are you." My breath caught. What do you mean? We have documents, reports, videos. Everything will be explained at the station. But you need to understand. She looked at the house. That woman, your daughter-in-law, is not who you think she is. I stared at her stunned. She continued, and the man inside that house? He's not family. He's controlling everything. A cold wave washed over me. She placed a hand on my shoulder. Please, come with me before someone sees. And that's when the house door opened. Jenna stood there, her eyes wild, possessive, territorial. "Mom," she said with a fake sweet voice, "come inside. We need to talk." The APS worker stepped in front of me. "No, she's coming with me." Jenna's smile dropped. Her eyes darkened. "Like hell she is." Jenna's voice echoed through the cold air like a threat dressed as sweetness. "Mom, come inside. We need to talk." But her eyes, those weren't the eyes of a daughter-in-law. They were the eyes of someone who was afraid of losing control. The APS worker, Emily, stepped in front of me, her posture stiff and protective. "Mrs. Thompson isn't going anywhere with you," she said calmly. Jenna's jaw tightened. Her hand curled around the doorknob like she was holding back the urge to drag me inside. "Who are you to interfere in our family matters?" Jenna hissed. Emily lifted her badge. "State Adult Protective Services. And we received a complaint concerning the safety of both Mrs. Thompson and her son." Jenna flinched, just a flicker, but enough to confirm something was very wrong. "Your son," she repeated, her voice shaky for the first time. Emily didn't break eye contact. "Yes, Mark Thompson. And we're aware he hasn't been seen by any medical professional in over 3 weeks, despite documented symptoms that should have required immediate care." My heart froze. Medical symptoms? My son was sick? And no one told me? Jenna shot a stiff, sharp smile. "Everything is under control. Mark is fine." Emily raised an eyebrow. "Then why didn't he go to his follow-up appointment?" Jenna stuttered. I rescheduled it 3 times. Emily countered. Jenna's smile cracked. I grabbed Emily's arm, my voice trembling. "Please, tell me what's happening with my son." Emily glanced at me with eyes full of empathy. "We'll explain everything at the station. But right now we need to leave. It isn't safe for you here." Jenna snapped. "Safe? What are you implying?" Emily stepped closer to her. "We have reports from your neighbors. Yelling, crashing noises, Mark begging someone to stop." My breath caught. That must have been the voice I heard earlier. My son begging? Jenna's face twisted. "That's ridiculous." And Emily continued, pulling out her phone. "We have footage." Jenna's eyes widened. She lunged forward. "Stop." Emily locked her jaw. "Touch me and you'll be arrested." Jenna backed down, but the fury in her eyes turned toward me. "Mom," she said tightly, "don't make things worse. You know how emotional you get. You're confused. You're old." "Enough," Emily snapped. For the first time in years, someone defended me. I felt tears prick my eyes. But then, a new voice floated from inside the house. Deep, male, not Mark. "Jenna," he said from the shadows behind the door. "Step away." Jenna's shoulders stiffened. Her body language changed instantly, like she was afraid of him, not Emily. A figure stepped into the doorway. Tall, broad, wearing a dark gray sweater. Expression cold and unreadable. The same man I saw watching from the curtains. A chill crawled up my spine. "Who are you?" I whispered. He didn't answer me. He spoke to Jenna instead. "You told me tonight would be clean. That she wouldn't come back early." My stomach dropped. "Clean." Emily stepped closer protectively. "Sir, I need you to identify yourself." He smirked. "I don't need to tell you anything." My hands shook. Who was this man? Why was he in my house? And what did he mean by clean? Jenna looked panicked now. "It's okay, Evan," she said quickly. "I'll handle this." Evan. So that was his name. He glanced at me with a chilling, dismissive look, like I was an object blocking his path. "This is dragging out too long," he growled. "We need to finish the plan. Tonight." My breath hitched. Finish what plan? Emily stepped back toward me slowly. "Mrs. Thompson, we need to leave. Right now." But before we could move, Evan stepped into the doorway fully, blocking it with his body. His eyes locked onto me. "You ruined everything by coming back," he said. "She wasn't supposed to be here anymore." A tremor ran through my body. Jenna grabbed his arm. "Evan, stop. Not here." He jerked away from her. "You said she'd be gone. You promised." "I'm not risking everything for your stupid family drama. Your husband is useless. Your kid won't stop crying. We need the house." He said it openly, like my family was trash, like my son was disposable. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. Jenna turned pale. "Evan, shut up." But he didn't. He pointed at me. "This old woman is the only piece left. Once she's out, everything is ours. Everything is ours. My home. My son. My granddaughter. My life." Jenna glanced at me. Panic, guilt, fear all swirling together. I told you I would convince her." "You told me a lot of things," Evan snapped. "But clearly you can't handle it." Jenna swallowed hard. Emily stepped in front again. "This is enough. Sir, step away and keep your hands visible." But instead, Evan reached behind the door and pulled something out. A metal rod. My breath seized. "Emily," I whispered. She moved in front of me instantly. "Stay behind me, Mrs. Thompson." Jenna gasped. "Evan, have you lost your mind?" His voice dropped to a frightening calm. "She wasn't supposed to come back. She wasn't supposed to interfere. But if she's here, we deal with it." Jenna grabbed his arm desperately. "No. You said no violence. And you said she'd already be gone." They argued, but their voices sounded distant. I couldn't stop staring at the rod in his hand. He wasn't bluffing. He wasn't threatening. He was planning something. Something irreversible. Just when Emily reached for her radio, the front door slammed open wider. Not by Evan. Not by Jenna. By Mark. My son. He stumbled out, clutching the doorframe, pale and shaking like he barely had strength to stand. "Mom!" he whispered, his voice breaking. Tears filled my eyes instantly. "Mark!" I cried. But before he could take another step, Evan grabbed him harshly by the back of his shirt and yanked him inside. "No!" I screamed. Emily lunged forward, but the door slammed shut in our faces. A lock turned, then another, then another. My heart shattered into pieces. "Mark! Mark!" I screamed, pounding on the door. I heard him weakly shout, "Mom, help, don't let them." His voice was cut off, like someone covered his mouth. Emily grabbed my shoulders. "Mrs. Thompson, listen to me, listen. We're calling backup. Right now." She spoke into her radio, urgency cracking her voice. "This is Officer Daniels with APS. I have a confirmed domestic hostage risk. Send police and medical immediately." I stared at the door, numb. My son. My baby. The boy I raised alone. Inside that house. Trapped with those two monsters. And he was sick. So sick. And I hadn't known. 'Cause they kept me away. They isolated him. They lied. They controlled everything. Emily grabbed my hand. "Stay with me. They can't hide anymore." But I wasn't listening. My eyes stayed fixed on the door. Because behind it, my son cried out again. A weak, broken cry. "Mom, please." Then silence. The house felt colder that night. Colder than any winter I had ever lived through. Maybe it wasn't the air. Maybe it was the truth settling into my bones. I was no longer welcome. Not in my own son's home. Not in the home where I had once taught him how to walk, how to speak, how to dream. I sat quietly on the edge of the guest room bed, my hands trembling as I held the small envelope he had left with my belongings. He had written, "No space for you, Mom." But the weight of these words, it felt heavier than stone. For a moment my heart whispered, maybe there's something more he didn't tell me. Because a son, my son, would never abandon me without a reason, right? I opened the envelope again, hoping I had misread. My eyes scanned the paper over and over. But it still said the same thing. "Mom, we talked and the house is too small. We can't keep doing this." Doing what? What exactly was such a burden to them? My presence? My existence? I swallowed the pain like a knife. A strange sound. A whispered conversation. As I placed the letter down, I heard voices outside the room. Soft, urgent. Almost like they didn't want me to hear. It was my daughter-in-law. And my son. I moved closer to the door, the floor creaking beneath me. Their whispers grew clearer. "She can't stay here, Daniel," she said sharply. "She's slowing everything down. We can't take care of her and work." My son's voice, tired, defeated, answered, "I know. I'll talk to her tomorrow." But then she said something that sliced deeper than anything before. "Just make sure she leaves before the guests arrive. I don't want her here. Embarrassing us." Embarrassing them? Me? The woman who raised this man. Who worked double shifts to pay for his school. Who stood behind him through every failure, every heartbreak. I stepped back, hand clutching my chest as if trying to hold my heart in place. For the first time in my life, I felt like a stranger in my own family. A guest. A burden. An inconvenience they were trying to hide. I returned to the bed and closed my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. The room suddenly felt too small. Or maybe their love had become too small. I whispered to myself, what did I do so wrong to deserve this? But life wasn't done breaking me that night. As I stood to use the bathroom, I saw my son's phone on the dresser, buzzing with a new message. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But something inside me, a mother's instinct, pulled my eyes toward the glowing screen. It was a message from my daughter-in-law. Make sure she leaves early. If she refuses, I'll call the place again. They said they'll take her immediately. The place. My heart froze. I knew exactly what that meant. A nursing home. A place they had been discussing behind my back. A place they planned to send me like some unwanted package. I felt the world tilt beneath me. My knees weakened. My breath vanished. I whispered, "My own children planning to put me away?" That's when I realized something far darker. This wasn't about space. This wasn't about inconvenience. This wasn't about old age. There was something they were hiding. Something they didn't want me to know. Something they were willing to throw me away for. And suddenly, my trip, my luggage at the door, the rushed goodbyes, everything felt like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't connected yet. But I would. And when I did, it would change everything. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the message again. They said they'll take her immediately. A nursing home. As if I were a broken chair they wanted to place in storage. The sky was still dark when I sat up on the bed. My heart felt heavier than my suitcase outside the door. But one thought kept repeating in my mind. Why? Why are they doing this to me? I had raised a good son. Or at least, I thought I did. I knew this wasn't just about no space. I knew they were hiding something. But what? Before I could even gather my thoughts, I heard footsteps approaching the room. Slow, hesitant, as if my son was fighting with guilt even before knocking. Then, tap, tap. "Mom? Are you awake?" I didn't answer immediately. I needed a moment to steady the storm in my chest. "Yes," I finally said. He entered with the look of a man walking into a courtroom he never wanted to be in. His eyes avoided mine, drifting everywhere else, the floor, the wall, the curtains. Never me. "Mom," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "We need to talk before the day starts." I nodded, even though I knew exactly what he wanted to talk about. He swallowed hard. "I know it looks sudden, but you know the house is small, and with everything going on it's hard to keep me." I finished for him gently. His face stiffened. "No, Mom, it's not like that. It's just complicated." Complicated. Isn't that what people say when the truth is something they're too ashamed to admit? I wasn't angry at him. That's the worst part. I was disappointed. Because this man, the boy I raised, was scared to look his mother in the eyes and tell her the truth. "What's going on, Daniel?" I asked softly. "You can tell me." He hesitated. His jaw tightened. His fingers tapped nervously against his leg. "Mom, Emma and we've been stressed lately. Money is tight. Work is getting complicated. And having you here hurts your image." The words escaped me before I could stop them. He froze. I knew then. He hadn't told me the full truth. Before he could answer, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. My heart dropped. It was a number labeled Senior Facility Intake Desk. He didn't expect me to see it, but I did. And in that moment, I saw his guilt turn into panic. "Mom, it's just..." I held up my hand, stopping him. "You don't have to explain," I whispered. But inside I was breaking. But then something strange happened. Right as he silenced the call, a notification popped up beneath it. A message preview from Emma. Did she find out? If she did, you know what we have to do. My breath caught. What we have to do. What were they planning? Why did my staying threaten them so much? My son quickly flipped the phone face down, but it was too late. I'd seen enough. He forced a smile, but it trembled. "Mom, please just trust me." Trust him? How could I trust someone who was preparing to discard me like trash? But I stayed quiet. Because sometimes silence reveals more than questions ever will. That morning, instead of arguing, instead of crying, instead of pleading for a space in the home I once helped them buy, I smiled at him and said, "All right, Daniel. Let's do what you think is best." His relief was instant, too instant. It told me everything I needed to know. And as he walked away, I whispered to myself, "I will not fight you, but I will find out what you're hiding." Because deep inside, I knew this wasn't about space, or money, or stress. There was a secret, a big one, and I was getting closer to it. I spent the rest of the morning sitting quietly at the kitchen table listening, not speaking, not reacting, just listening. When people think you've accepted something, that's when they talk freely. And that is exactly what I needed. The house felt unusually tense. Doors opened quietly, footsteps were soft, whispers floated through hallways. It felt like I was living inside someone else's secret. Around noon, I heard my daughter-in-law's voice from the living room. Sharp, whispering, worried. "Daniel," she knows. "I saw her look at your phone." My heart stopped. I leaned closer to the kitchen doorway, careful not to make a sound. Daniel sighed heavily. "She didn't say anything. Maybe she didn't notice." "No," Emma insisted, "she noticed. And if she starts asking questions, everything could fall apart." Everything. What was everything? What truth were they protecting so desperately that my presence made it fall apart? A few minutes later, I walked into the living room as if nothing happened. Emma jumped like she'd seen a ghost. "Oh, Mrs. Martin, you scared me." I smiled politely. "Did I? I was just looking for a glass of water." Her eyes darted to Daniel, then back to me. She forced a smile that didn't touch her eyes. Of course. You can take whatever you need." The way she said "whatever you need" sounded like she was offering me leftovers she didn't want to touch. I nodded and walked past her. But I didn't miss the way her voice dropped to a panicked whisper as I left the room. She heard us. I'm telling you, she heard everything. She wasn't entirely wrong. As the afternoon passed, the house became strangely busy. Papers being shuffled, doors opening and closing, phone calls made in low voices. Something was happening, something they didn't want me to see. So I kept doing what any quiet old woman does. I blended in, invisible but observant. And that was how I caught the moment that changed everything. I walked into Daniel's home office with a basket of laundry in my arms, pretending to help. Daniel jumped up immediately. "Mom, you don't have to do that." "It keeps me busy," I said gently. He smiled, nervous, not warm. As he reached for the basket, a folder on his desk slid slightly, revealing the top page inside. I froze. It had my name printed across the top. Evelyn Martin. Financial authorization and estate transfer. My heart slammed against my ribs. Estate transfer? Authorization? Why would they have paperwork with my name on it? Daniel quickly covered the folder, too quickly. "Mom, you shouldn't be lifting heavy. Come on, let's get you back to the guest room." He ushered me out before I could say a word. But the damage was done. I had seen enough. That evening I went to the backyard for some fresh air. I needed to think, to breathe, to calm the shaking inside my chest. That's when I heard Emma through the open window on the phone. "No, I'm telling you. Once she signs the papers, everything is settled. We just need her to agree. And she will. Especially after we send her to." She paused. A voice on the other end spoke too softly to hear. Then she said it. Yes. The nursing home will keep her from interfering. We just have to move quickly before she begins asking about the money. The money. There it was. The motive. Not space. Not stress. Not convenience. They wanted my money. My savings. My home. Everything I had worked my entire life to build. And sending me away wasn't just a decision. It was part of their plan. I stood frozen in the dark, tears gathering in my eyes. Not from pain. From betrayal. My son. My own flesh and blood. Manipulated by the woman he chose over family. Or worse. Willingly part of the plan. But I wasn't weak. And I wasn't leaving quietly. I wiped my tears and whispered into the night. If it's a game you want to play, then you chose the wrong mother. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a moment. I lay there quietly in the dim guest room, staring at the ceiling as shadows crawled across the walls. My mind replayed Emma's voice again and again. After she signs the papers, the nursing home. Before she begins asking about the money. Those words felt like needles in my chest. I tried to remind myself that Daniel was a good boy once. A boy who cried when he scraped his knee. Who hugged me tightly during storms. Who promised he'd always protect me. But somewhere along the way, I lost him. Or maybe he lost himself. I didn't know what hurt more. Emma's coldness. Or Daniel's silence. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. Soft. Slow. Almost cautious. Then a faint clinking sound. I got up and approached the door, opening it just an inch. Daniel stood at the dining table signing papers. He kept flipping through a stack, writing fast, anxious, focused. Not once did he look toward my room. He was signing away things. I could feel it, things that belonged to me. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just Emma. Daniel was involved. Fully. Completely. I closed my door softly, but I didn't go back to bed. When the sun rose, I was already dressed. If they wanted a battle quietly fought behind closed doors, they picked the wrong woman. I had lived too long. Survived too much. Raised a whole family from nothing. I wasn't about to let my own blood erase me like an old receipt. I tidied the room, folded the blanket neatly, and made the bed just the way I did when my children were small. Then I walked into the kitchen, calm and steady. Emma was there making coffee. She froze when she saw me. "Oh, you're up early." "Yes," I said softly. I wanted to help. Her eyes widened. She wasn't expecting kindness. Good. Confusion is the first crack in a liar's confidence. She swallowed nervously and poured me a cup. I reached for it slowly, watching her hands. They trembled. "Is everything all right, Emma?" "Why, yes," she stammered. "Just tired." Her lie was thin, weak, transparent. I nodded calmly, sipping the coffee. "You and Daniel were busy last night." She froze. The silence thickened. I didn't look at her. That's how you catch truth. By pretending you're not searching for it. Emma forced a smile. "Oh, we were just sorting bills." "Bills?" I repeated gently. "Interesting. I didn't know bills required signatures." Her face paled. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. I had already won this round. Around noon, Daniel finally joined us. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, stiff movements, tension all over his face. "Mom, I've been thinking," he began. I braced myself. "I think we should talk later today. About your future." There it was. The moment they had planned. The moment they thought would break me. I smiled gently. "Of course, darling. We'll talk." His shoulders relaxed, relieved. Emma looked almost victorious. Let them believe I was clueless. A calm enemy is the most dangerous one. While they stepped outside to make a phone call. Another secretive one. I walked quietly into their office. I knew I had to be quick. I checked the desk, the drawers, the shelf. Then I saw it. An envelope tucked behind a stack of folders. My name was on it. I opened it, my hand steady despite my racing heart. Inside were copies of financial authorization forms, a nursing home admission packet, payment estimates, a power of attorney document with MY name, and Daniel's signature line highlighted. They were going to take everything. My money, my rights, my home, my independence, my life. I felt dizzy for a moment, not from shock, but from fury. How dare they? How dare they think I was disposable? I closed the envelope and tucked it under my sweater. They didn't know it yet, but they had handed me the evidence I needed. As I stepped into the hallway, I saw movement outside the window. Mrs. Harding, their elderly neighbor, stood on the porch watering her plants. Our eyes met through the glass. She frowned at me, then motioned with her hand for me to come outside. I didn't hesitate. I slipped out the back door and walked over to her. She leaned close. Are you all right, dear? You don't look well. I lowered my voice. I'm not. I think something terrible is happening. Her expression changed instantly, concern, anger, protectiveness. I've heard them, she whispered. They've been talking about arrangements. I didn't think. I hoped it wasn't what I feared. My throat tightened. So I'm not imagining it. No, she squeezed my arm. You're not crazy. And you're not alone. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of strength return. I wasn't alone. And I wasn't powerless. When I returned to the house, Emma and Daniel were waiting at the table. We need to talk, Daniel said, trying to sound firm. I smiled softly and sat down. Inside my sweater, my fingers brushed the stolen envelope. They thought they controlled the game. But they didn't know. I had already switched the board. Daniel gestured for me to sit at the dining table. Emma sat beside him, stiff and nervous, like she was preparing for a performance she'd rehearsed many times but still feared messing up. I took my seat quietly, folding my hands in my lap. My heart was heavy, but my mind was sharp. They had no idea. Absolutely no idea. Daniel begins the speech. He cleared his throat. Mom, we've been thinking a lot these past few months. I nodded gently. He continued. You're getting older. And we're very busy with work and the kids. Emma jumped in immediately, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. We care about you so much, Mrs. Martin. But sometimes love means making hard decisions. Hard decisions for them, not for me. Hard decisions that benefited them, not me. But I kept my face calm. Daniel relaxed, thinking his mother was ready, softened, weak. Perfect. Mom, we think it's time for you to consider moving somewhere safer. My heart sank silently. He couldn't even say the words nursing home. Coward. I looked at him and let my voice tremble just enough to seem believable. Are you saying you don't want me here? His eyes flickered with guilt. Then he forced a practiced line. No, Mom, we just want what's best for you. Emma nodded rapidly. Yes, it's all for your own good. I tilted my head. Then why are there documents with my name on them already prepared? Emma went white. Daniel stopped breathing. What documents? He asked carefully. Oh, I replied softly. Just some forms labeled estate transfer, power of attorney, and nursing home admissions. Very thoughtful of you to plan ahead. Their silence was a confession, a loud one. I set the envelope on the table. Neither of them moved. Their masks crack. Daniel swallowed hard. Mom, it's not what you think. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks exactly like what I think. Emma spoke next, her voice sharp. You weren't supposed to see those. I stared at her. Not surprised. Not angry on the surface. Just deeply, deeply disappointed. So you admit it, I said quietly. Daniel buried his head in his hands. Mom, Emma said we had no choice. The expenses, the kids. Emma cut him off. No. Don't blame me. You agreed. The cracks between them grew wider. Interesting. I leaned forward. Tell me the truth. Why now? Why suddenly? Emma hesitated too long. Then she said it. Because we found out about your savings. There it was. The ugly heart of the plan. Daniel closed his eyes, ashamed. I felt a sting in my chest. Not because of the money, but because my son didn't stop her. Ah, I whispered. So I'm not a burden. I'm a bank. Daniel's voice cracked. Mom, please. No, I held up a hand. Not this time. I stood slowly. Emma tensed as if expecting me to collapse. Break. Beg. I didn't. Instead, I looked right into Daniel's eyes. You left me outside your door with my luggage. You wrote no space for you. You broke my heart in ways you'll never understand. His lips trembled. But listen to me carefully, I continued. I am not done. Not by a long shot. I turned and walked toward the hallway. Emma scrambled up from her chair. Where are you going? I paused at the doorway and looked over my shoulder. To take back my life. For the first time, they were the ones speechless. They didn't know if I was bluffing. They didn't know how much I knew. They didn't know what I would do next. Perfect. As I entered the guest room to pack my things, my phone buzzed. A number I hadn't seen in years. Detective Harris. An old friend of my late husband. A good man. A man who helped our family before. My hands trembled as I answered. Harris. Evelyn, he said, his tone urgent. I heard something from a mutual friend. Something about your son. We need to talk in person. A chill ran down my spine. What is it? I whispered. It's about your accounts. And the people trying to access them. There's more than just your son involved. My breath caught. What do you mean more? He sighed heavily. I can't say over the phone. But Evelyn, you're in danger. Danger. Not betrayal. Not greed. Not carelessness. Danger. A shiver ran down my arms. This wasn't just a family problem anymore. Something bigger was happening behind my back. Something Daniel and Emma might not even fully understand. My voice shook. Where do I meet you? Old Elm Park, he said. 30 minutes. Okay. I'll be there. I grabbed my purse. I left the room. I left the house. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt in control. I walked down the street with my purse clutched tight against my chest. My breath was unsteady, but my steps were strong. The sky was gray. Clouds swirling like even they knew something was wrong. Cold wind brushed against my face, pulling tears from the corners of my eyes. Not tears of sadness. Not anymore. Tears of fear. And determination. What could be so dangerous that Detective Harris, A man who had never once exaggerated anything told me I was in danger. When I turned the corner toward the park, a strange feeling settled in my spine, the feeling of being watched. I slowed my pace slightly, pretending to check my phone screen. In the reflection, I saw a man standing across the street. Tall, dark jacket, hands in his pockets. He wasn't looking at his phone. He wasn't waiting for anyone. He was just staring at me. I turned away slowly. Don't react, Evelyn. Not yet. I kept walking. Left turn. Right turn. Crosswalk. I glanced at a shop window. The reflection confirmed it. He was following me. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. Was this connected to Daniel? To the forms? To the money? Or was this something even worse? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. I had to reach Harris. Fast. Old Elm Park was almost empty. Just a few joggers and a couple reading on a bench. I scanned the area. Then I saw him. Detective Harris. Older now, hair almost fully gray, but still carrying that familiar steady presence. He waved me over urgently. Evelyn. Sit. Quickly. I sat beside him, my hands shaking. What's happening? I whispered. He looked around before speaking. It's more complicated than you think. My stomach tightened. Start from the beginning, I said. I deserve that much. He nodded. Evelyn, your husband left behind more money than you knew. I froze. What? Your late husband's investment account, one he never talked about, has been growing for decades. It's not just savings. It's a fortune. A very large one. My mind spun. He never told me. He planned to surprise you, Harris said softly. But after his death, someone tried to access that account. Someone who was not you. My breath hitched. Who? Harris lowered his voice. Your daughter-in-law, Emma. My entire body went cold. And she wasn't acting alone. A chill crawled across my skin. Who else? He hesitated. Then he said the name that shattered me all over again. Daniel. I felt like the ground disappeared under my feet. My son. My only child. The boy I raised with love and sacrifice. Trying to steal his father's life savings? I covered my mouth as tears fell. I can't believe it, I whispered. Harris put a hand on my arm. I'm sorry, Evelyn. But there's more. My heart dropped even lower. More. He nodded gravely. Someone else has been guiding them. Someone who knows the legal system. Someone who promised to help them get control of your inheritance. Who? My voice was barely a breath. Harris looked pained. A man named Clark Benson. A financial advisor with a history of exploiting elderly clients. I gasped. And Daniel trusted him? Trusted him? Evelyn? Harris leaned closer. Daniel contacted him first. I felt faint. Daniel. My son. My own flesh and blood. He wasn't manipulated. He wasn't pressured. He started it. I blinked back tears. So the man following me? Harris stiffened. You noticed him? Yes. His jaw tightened. Evelyn, that means they're moving faster than I thought. They probably realized you found the documents. My pulse quickened. What do they want now? To force you to sign papers giving Daniel full financial control. My stomach twisted. And if I don't? Harris swallowed hard. Then they might try something more aggressive. I've seen Benson's clients end up legally incompetent. Sent away. Silenced. My blood ran cold. Silenced. I repeated. Harris nodded grimly. They want your signature. If they can't get it willingly. He didn't need to finish the sentence. I understood. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about eliminating me as an obstacle. Harris took my hand firmly. Evelyn, listen. You cannot go back to that house. Not today. Not tonight. I inhaled sharply. But my things are there. Nothing in that house is worth your life. I looked at him with trembling lips. What do I do? He slid a small card into my hand. Go to this address. It's a safe house. I'll meet you there tonight with a lawyer. We can protect your inheritance. And you. I nodded slowly. Fear. Pain. Betrayal. But under all of that, a new fire. A fierce, powerful, unstoppable fire. I'm not giving up, I whispered. Not to Daniel. Not to Emma. Not to this Benson man. No one. Harris smiled tightly. That's the Evelyn I remember. We stood up. He walked me to the edge of the park, then turned back to make a call. I headed toward the safe house address, but halfway down the block, a black car turned the corner sharply. Windows tinted. Moving slow. Following my direction. My breath froze in my lungs. They found me. They weren't waiting anymore. They were coming. I stood there on my own front lawn, staring at a place that suddenly felt like it belonged to strangers. The sun was setting behind the roof my husband and I once painted together. The tree where my son scraped his knee at age 7. The window where I watched him leave for his first job. And now? Now I was just a visitor here. A visitor holding a suitcase I never planned to pack. A visitor reading a note that said, "Sorry, Mom. No space for you." The words echoed in my head like thunder that wouldn't fade. For a moment I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't breathe. Because it felt like if I moved, everything I ever built with my own hands would disappear. A neighbor walked by, staring at me with that look people give when they're afraid to ask what's wrong. I forced a smile. "Just back from a trip," I said softly. But inside I was screaming. Then why does it feel like I'm coming back to a life that no longer wants me? I reached for the door, but my hand froze just before touching the knob. I already knew. It was locked. Not jammed. Not an accident. Locked on purpose. The home I built, the home I nourished, had shut me out. I pressed my ear against the door. Nothing. No footsteps. No clatter of dishes. No voices. Just empty, hollow silence. A silence so loud it rattled inside my chest. I slid down onto the porch, my back against the wood, my suitcase beside me. My son didn't call. My daughter-in-law didn't text. No one checked to see if I came home safe. They had planned this. And the painful part was, they didn't even feel the need to hide it. As I sat there, I noticed something tucked beneath the doormat. A picture. One I hadn't seen in years. It was of me holding my son when he was just a baby, wrapped in a blue blanket his grandmother knitted. A memory. A soft, gentle moment, placed under the mat like trash. My hands trembled as I picked it up. How could the same boy in this picture grow up to leave me at the door like a delivery package? Just as I wiped a tear, a car pulled up. A woman stepped out. Not someone I recognized. She looked at me carefully. "Ma'am, are you okay? You've been sitting there for a long time." I opened my mouth, but the words didn't come. She looked at the house, then at the bags, then at the note crumpled in my hand. Slowly, she knelt beside me. "You don't have to tell me. I already understand." Her voice was soft, the kind that makes your heart loosen just a little. "Come inside," she said gently. "You can sit in my house until someone comes for you." Someone comes for me. Deep down I knew no one was coming. But for the first time that day, I felt a tiny flicker of warmth. Not from my family. Not from the house. From a stranger. Sometimes the people who break you are the closest ones, and the people who save you are the ones you never expect. The woman led me into her cozy home, offering me a warm seat and tea. I sipped slowly, letting the warmth seep into my trembling hands. "Thank you," I whispered. "You don't need thanks," she replied softly. "Some truths can't wait. You need to know what's really going on." I listened as she explained everything. The financial advisor, Clark Benson, had manipulated Daniel and Emma. He promised them easy access to my savings, convinced them that the inheritance was theirs to take. They thought they were smart. They thought I wouldn't notice. They thought a mother's love would blind her to betrayal. But I had seen the documents, I had heard the whispers, and I had felt the danger coming. I was no longer blind. We devised a plan immediately. Contact a trusted lawyer. Secure my assets. Gather evidence of Emma and Daniel's schemes. Let them think I was powerless. It was time they learned that a mother's love might be strong, but a mother's resolve is unbreakable. The next day I returned home, not to beg, not to plead, but to face the truth. Daniel and Emma were shocked to see me. "Mom, what are you doing back?" Daniel stammered. I held up the folder. "The papers. The nursing home documents. Every plan you made." Emma paled. "Mom, it's not what you think." I smiled. "Oh, I think exactly what I think." I handed the documents to a lawyer who had arrived quietly with me. "Everything you planned is now under review. Not one signature will be accepted without legal confirmation." Their faces went white. I looked at Daniel, the son I raised, and I said softly, "You wanted to leave me at the door like I was nothing. You wanted to erase me from your life. But remember this. A mother's love does not die, and a mother's memory never fades." Daniel's eyes filled with shame. Emma's lips trembled. For the first time they understood. I was not weak. I was not powerless. I was unstoppable. I moved into a safe and beautiful condo, a gift from my sister who had helped me behind the scenes. I secured my finances, my home, my independence. Daniel and Emma learned the hard way that greed and betrayal have consequences. But I chose not to hate them. I chose to protect myself first. And I chose to live. Sitting on the balcony of my new home, watching the sunset, I whispered to myself, I survived betrayal. I survived greed. And I survived heartbreak. Now, I am free. The wind carried away the pain of yesterday. The world felt mine again. Not because they returned what they stole, but because I reclaimed my life on my own terms. And that, my dear friends, is the story of a mother, a grandmother, and the unbreakable strength that no one can ever take away.